So, something interesting happened in Davos back in January 2026. Elon Musk, a guy who'd spent years calling the World Economic Forum boring and an unelected world government, actually showed up on the main stage for the first time. And he came with a prediction: there will be more robots than people. The applause was so lukewarm that Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, had to stop the session and literally ask the audience to clap louder. That was not enough. Start again, he told a room full of heads of state and Fortune 500 executives. I think this moment is revealing. The discomfort in that room wasn't really about Musk being eccentric or controversial. It was about something deeper, what you might call Muskophobia. And it comes down to three uncomfortable truths that a lot of educated, successful people would rather not confront. First, technology solves problems more efficiently than social programs and bureaucratic structures. Second, a lot of corporate and government jobs are redundant, and the people in those jobs sense it. And third, the future demands radical adaptation, not defending how things currently work. Let me give you some context on what Musk actually said in Davos. He talked about AI potentially becoming smarter than any human by the end of this year, and smarter than all of humanity combined within 5 years. He described an era of abundance where free AI and robots, his Optimus robots, would handle industrial work, elder care, childcare. His framing was that economic output would basically be calculated as robot productivity times the number of robots, and his closing message was this: it's better to err on the side of being an optimist and wrong rather than a pessimist and right. For Musk, that's a life philosophy. For the people in that audience, it probably felt like an indictment. Now, fear of automation isn't new. British Luddites were smashing weaving machines back in 1811. Norbert Wiener predicted mass unemployment in the 50s. Keynes coined the term technological unemployment in the 30s. In the long run, they were all wrong. New industries emerged, society adapted, prosperity followed. But in the short run, they were absolutely right. And short run here means decades. MIT research shows that during the first industrial revolution, from about 1760 to 1840, roughly 80 years, real wages for British workers stagnated or declined. Even while productivity was exploding, the gains went to capital. It took 50 to 70 years before working people started seeing improvements. The pattern keeps repeating. The second industrial revolution hollowed out middle skilled jobs. Computerization from the 80s onward created the productivity wage gap we still see today. American manufacturing productivity doubled between 95 and 2015, but employment peaked around 1980 and has been declining since. Now we're entering the fourth revolution. The World Bank estimates 77% of jobs in China and 69% in India are at risk from automation, and those numbers are already outdated. They don't account for recent AI advances. Here's the uncomfortable pattern: decades of disruption for displaced workers, followed eventually by broader prosperity. But the specific individuals who lose their jobs at 45 rarely become beneficiaries of that eventual bright future. That's not an argument against progress, it's an argument for taking the transition seriously. So let's talk about Musk criticism and what's actually driving it. I've been paying attention to this for a while, and here's what strikes me. The criticism is remarkably personal. It's about his tweets, his personality, his politics, his manner. What you almost never hear is someone saying, SpaceX doesn't actually work, or Tesla failed to build an EV market, or Starlink isn't real. Because you can't say that. The results are there. SpaceX launches rockets at a fraction of NASA's cost and lands them for reuse, something the aerospace establishment said was impractical. Tesla created a mass EV market that Detroit said was decades away. Starlink deployed a global satellite network faster than traditional telecoms could have agreed on the paperwork. When you can't attack the results, you attack the person. That's what a lot of Musk criticism amounts to. When people say mass layoffs are cruel, what's often really behind it is positions like mine could be next. When they complain about disinformation on X, they usually mean we've lost control of channels we used to dominate. When they call something dangerous for democracy, sometimes it really means this person isn't playing by the rules we set. Think about Twitter. Musk cut something like 80% of the staff, from around 7,500 people to under 2,000, and the platform kept running. You can argue about content moderation, quality, or whatever else, but the basic product works. That's a more unsettling data point than any think piece. If that many employees at a major tech company turned out to be non essential, what does that say about other organizations? What Musk demonstrated is that a significant chunk of white collar work consists of approvals, reports, and meetings about meetings. Functions that create the appearance of productivity rather than value. A lot of people saw themselves in that mirror and didn't like it. There's a geopolitical angle here that's worth thinking about. While Western elites debate the ethics of Musk's approach, China is quietly dominating industrial robot deployment. In 2023, China installed 276,000 industrial robots, over half of all global installations. Europe installed about 92,000, the US around 34,000. Chinese companies like BYD, Huawei, and DJI do essentially the same things Musk does, but they don't generate the same visceral reaction in the West. Why? Because they're far away. A Chinese CEO automating production in Shenzhen doesn't threaten an American HR director's sense of security. Musk doing it in Austin does. He's proving redundancy on home turf in real time in English. That's what makes Muskophobia so personal. It's not really about automation as an abstract concept. It's about a specific individual making comfortable people feel uncomfortable and doing it while being unapologetic about it. Now, I'm clearly sympathetic to Musk here, but let me address something real. The speed of change he's driving creates a genuine problem. Not because he's wrong about where things are going, I think he's mostly right, but because being right doesn't automatically solve the human side. A 45-year-old accountant replaced by AI isn't becoming a data scientist. A 55-year-old middle manager isn't retraining as a robotics engineer. These aren't failures of character. Retraining at that age, with a mortgage and kids, is genuinely hard. These people need actual help, not lectures about adapting to the inevitable. And here's the thing, exactly because Musk is right about the speed and scale of what's coming, the social adaptation question becomes urgent, not theoretical. We're not talking about gradual change over 50 years where the labor market self corrects. We're potentially talking about massive displacement within a decade. A society that doesn't prepare for this won't get abundance, it'll get crisis. Retraining programs, transition support, new social contracts, these aren't soft hearted charity. They're infrastructure for a functioning society on the other side of this transformation. I'll give Musk a pass on not solving this himself. He's building the future. Expecting him to also build the social safety net is unreasonable. But someone needs to, and the people currently spending their energy on Muskophobia might be more useful working on that problem. There's a harder question under all this. China implements automation faster than the West, partly because authoritarian systems don't need to build consensus or negotiate with unions or hold public debates. Democracy requires buy in. That's its strength and its constraint. Musk seems to want Western innovation at Chinese decision making speed, which is basically impossible without abandoning democratic values. So the real question isn't whether Musk is right about technology. He probably is. The question is whether democratic societies can adapt quickly enough to remain competitive. And honestly, that's unclear. Here's where I land on this. Muskophobia is actually a useful diagnostic. Your gut reaction to the phrase, there will be more robots than people, tells you something about where you stand. If you hear it as a threat, you're probably oriented toward defending current arrangements. If you hear it as a challenge, you're thinking about adaptation. If you hear it as an opportunity, you're already positioning for what comes next. The emotional intensity of Musk criticism tends to track with proximity to redundancy. The people most angry tend to be those whose jobs involve process, coordination, gatekeeping, functions that AI and automation handle efficiently. The engineers and builders tend to be less bothered. Technology always wins. That's not ideology, it's historical observation. The question is who navigates the transition well and who doesn't. The choice isn't Musk versus the status quo. It's between technological progress with serious social adaptation and progress without it. The first path is hard but leads somewhere good. The second path means falling behind competitors who act while we argue. You can dislike Musk personally. You can disagree with his politics, find his tweets obnoxious, think he's arrogant. Fine. But when the criticism is mostly about personality and almost never about results, that tells you something. It tells you the results are hard to argue with. And maybe the energy currently going into Muskophobia would be better spent figuring out how the rest of us adapt to a world he's building, whether we like it or not. Thanks for listening.